Don't lie to me again, not here. Her voice was a blade, sharp, just short of shaking. I don't know what you're talking about, the other woman snapped, chin lifting. The documents hit the polished table between them, pages spilling a bright scar. Gold flecks winked on the carpet. The accountant stood, arms stiff. It's all here, every transfer, every name. Stop, put that down, the woman hissed, reaching across with painted nails bitten at the ends. You have no idea what you're doing. She stepped back, knuckles white where they gripped the fake book. Fog pressed against the wide glass. Somewhere below, voices murmured, footsteps running. The world will know by morning, she said, low and ferocious. You can't shut us up anymore. Silence pooled, sticky, desperate. Then you think you've won, that you're some kind of hero. A muscle jumped in her jaw. No, she breathed, almost a whisper, just done with being erased. All of it crested threat and promise, exposed, suspended in a moment as fragile as breath in winter. But to understand how she ended up here, hands shaking, every card on the table, you'd have to go all the way back to that battered rental on the Oregon coast, 12 days earlier, before hope and ruin upended the world she thought she knew. The ocean groaned and rattled the rotting window panes as Morgan Baines bent over the cracked bathroom sink, shoving the last of her prescription bottles into a canvas duffel. 5 pills left. Her health insurance card with a corner snapped off. A plastic apology for coverage long since lapsed lay at the bottom, useless as a lottery ticket with the wrong date. The cold morning battered at the walls, thick with the scent of mildew and salt, and Morgan coughed, shoulders hunched against it all. Behind her, a phone dinged. The attorney's subject line just visible in the cracked screen, final notice. Baines' estate acceptance required. She hadn't seen her so-called stepmother in 3 years, not since the morgue, not since that cold handshake on the courthouse steps where her own name sounded like an insult. Now there was nothing left except the ghost of family and something called undivided interest in personal and real property, Chestnut Hill, Boston. Morgan muttered, real generous Allison, half hating how tired her own voice sounded. Opening the attached PDF, she winced. $80, $0 in back taxes, and the words as is condition right up top in bold. In her inbox, birthday coupons from CVS and test results from last week's blood work. ANA positive, symptoms flaring, hours spent in bed when her joints locked every morning. Morgan shoved her glasses up her nose and looked around. A duffel, a smart, battered laptop, a half-dead aloe plant, and the knot of a mystery letter at the bottom of the rental's battered mailbox. The envelope had no return address, only her real name in slashed ink, Morgan Lynn Baines. The letter inside was on worn hotel stationery. No signature. Chestnut Hill House is not what they told you. Grandfather left more than you know. Apples rot, but gold endures. Book 24, right, the shelf end. Her heart stuttered, skidding between disbelief and something far brighter. Apples rot, but gold. She closed her eyes, thinking of orchards half-remembered, summers spent driving north with her grandfather, hot wheels pressed into her palm, learning to break the silence of the grown-up world with a single word. Why? If you've ever been told you were the wrong kind of family, like your place at the table could be yanked away by someone else's signature, keep listening. Sometimes the exile is the one who finds the door back. The battered rental faded behind her as Morgan stepped onto the sun-bleached porch, keys jangling in her grip. The drive to Boston would take a day, maybe more if she could get the car started, if her hands stopped shaking, if the world didn't collapse before she got there. The redwoods were a wall of shadow on either side as Morgan's ancient Subaru crawled north, engine making a sound like distant thunder each time she pushed it uphill. She kept the heater on, one leg pressed to the door to keep feeling in her calf, knuckles white around the wheel. Rain battered Northern California, wipers fighting to keep the glass clear as the miles ticked by. Her body ached, a reminder of what she'd lost the year her diagnosis came. Her job at the think tank cost too high for medical coverage, her partner, wrong season, wrong roots, her nerve. Each exit sign was a mile marker back toward a life she'd thought closed to her. Her phone crackled to life as she passed Cloverdale. Allison had called twice. Morgan ignored them. She could still hear the cold, clipped voice from years back. "You're not one of us, Morgan, by marriage, not by blood." That marriage had dissolved inside a hospice room with wind rattling the metal blinds. The rest of the family had emptied the estate by the following week. But now there was this note, a last chance, seeds of something that might not rot. She stopped overnight just south of Reading, fighting a fever behind motel curtains. Fog rolled through parking lots, sodium light. In dreams, she saw her grandfather whispering across a wooden porch, "Not for her. For you, if you're smart enough to look." She woke in the chill, pulled herself back onto the road before dawn, mind spinning through permutations of the riddle. Book 24, what shelf, gold, couldn't be literal gold, or could it? By the time she reached Chestnut Hill, the weedy front yard of the mansion wore a collar of yellow police tape, for safety only, as a neighbor sniped. The house was a monument to every rotten thing inherited. 3 stories, boards listing over shattered windows, the sick-sweet smell of wet rot clinging even through the rain. It struck her sideways. This was really all that was left. She forced the warped door with her shoulder. Inside, the house was a monument to abandonment. The stair banister split, yellowing newspapers stacked in lopsided towers and dust-choked sunbeams slicing the gloom. Morgan blinked and set the duffel down, nausea pulsing, the ache in her knees a metronome of desperation. A bookshelf stood in the main hall, 50, maybe more, battered volumes against faded wainscoting. Her heart hammered, mouth dry. She pressed trembling fingers along the spines, Moby Dick, The Grapes of Wrath, old sci-fi pulps, a shelf of battered hardy boys in fake leather jackets. Her breath caught, Book 24 right the shelf end. There, a battered copy of Steinbeck, Spine Worse for Wear. Morgan cracked it open. Hollow. Inside, tightly packed, gleaming against black velvet, unmistakable fist-sized gold nuggets, the kind she'd only seen in museum display cases. Something in her chest shifted, sharp as broken bone, then vibrating with possibility. The first key found. The house sang to itself in the fog, floorboards creaking under Morgan's cautious progress. The weight of the hidden gold was a pulse in her bag, unreal, dense, terrifying. Was it real? Was this her grandfather's last message, or just a trap waiting to snap? She didn't know. In the main hall, she paused by the base of the grand staircase, catching the glint of another hollowed book behind a broken vase. She cracked it open, more gold nuggets, each wrapped in faded wax paper labeled with a date. 1914, 1922, 1943. Morgan half laughed, half coughed. "You old coyote," she muttered, remembering her grandfather's sly, sidelong glance whenever someone in the family asked about his disappearing camping trips. Thunder kicked at the window. The house seemed to close in, as if slumping inward with secrets kept close for decades. She dug deeper, half an hour spent combing the shelves, hands raw from tearing old dust jackets, sweat beading despite the cold. In the 5th fake book, she found an aged photograph, her grandfather standing beside a mining claim marker somewhere sunburnt, his hand clasped around what looked very much like the same gold. Behind the photo, a scrawled note, "Allison can't touch this, keep it safe, the trust isn't what you think." Her vision blurred, a sharp ache flamed through her hands, lupus always lurking. She squeezed her fists, desperate for control, and tucked the photo away. It was enough. She found 4 more hollow books, each heavy with raw gold, all hidden in plain sight. Morgan whispered, "This is it, isn't it? This is how you fought back." As she moved to the next shelf, a sharp noise startled her, footsteps crunching glass outside the parlor. Morgan froze, heart wild, then only silence. On the kitchen counter, a sealed envelope rested among dead silverfish, the rest of the paperwork. Title confirms, deeds, and at the bottom a trust agreement with pages missing. Her throat went dry. This wasn't just about the gold. There was something rotten in the paperwork, pages missing, names redacted. Morgan shoved the gold into her duffel and pressed herself dumbly against the cold wall. The truth hovered in the stale air. Allison's hands all over this trust, more than anyone had said. She had to know more. Dawn grayed the windows as Morgan bundled herself and the duffel back out into the fog, legging it to a battered sedan. She made one call, the only ally she remembered from the old world, Gloria Priest, a forensic accountant and burnt-out genius who'd once told Morgan to never trust a signature you didn't watch get signed. The line buzzed in Morgan's ears, Gloria's voice scraping, "Morgs, took you long enough." Morgan crouched in the driver's seat, fighting to keep her breathing even. "I need your eyes, real bad." "How bad?" "3 million's gone missing over 2 decades. My stepmother's trust. Gold, secret mining claim, pages missing." A hiss, "Gold, you sure it's real, not fool's gold?" She shook her head, though Gloria couldn't see it. "Feels heavy enough to break a wrist. Labels dated before Allison was even born." Silence, and then, "Don't say another word on the phone. Meet me at my office tomorrow. Bring everything you got, and wear gloves. You look like a thumbprint on glass anytime you try to hide." Morgan grinned despite herself, slumping back against the headrest. "Thanks, Glow, I owe you." "Not yet, I bill by the hour, and if you're lying, you'll hear about it." Morgan slept in the car that night, sweating through recurring fevers. She dreamed people picking fruit from trees that bled gold, that her mother, 10 years gone, stood at the porch and shook her head. "Don't let that woman take another thing from you." She woke stiff and aching, mouth tasting of rust and panic. 2 weeks. She had 2 weeks to file a patent on the mining technique mentioned in the notes. Otherwise, everything, ownership, leverage, legal right, would revert to public domain. Someone banged on the window. Morgan startled, then saw Gloria's ponytail peeking behind thick glasses. Inside Gloria's cramped downtown office, they spread the gold on cloth, the evidence stark and frightening under fluorescent light. Gloria huffed out a laugh. "You weren't exaggerating," she muttered. "This is north of 200 pounds. Where the hell did you say your grandfather got this?" "North Coast claim," Morgan replied, feeling both proud and queasy. Gloria got to work, calculator and laptop humming. Reports of old mining patents, state filings, gem values, bank records. It took 2 hours before she looked up, face set. "Morgs, listen, there's more here. Your stepmother started pulling money out years ago. Obvious laundering. Beneficiaries on the trust change every time there's gold movement. I'll need more time, but someone's hiding big time." Morgan's hands shook, a coil tightening behind her eyes. Gloria snapped, "Don't have a damn breakdown now. Clock's ticking." "There's a deadline," Morgan said, voice raw. "Patent filing, 2 weeks or everything rolls over. Someone's watching the P.O. box." Gloria chewed her pen. "You want my help, we file the provisional, then we build the case and bring in press. You ready to go to war with her?" Morgan hesitated. "Yeah," she said quietly. "Yeah, I think I am." Gloria nodded, her gaze sharp. "Give me every file, no shortcuts." Morgan slid them over, glancing at the window as if Allison herself might materialize out of the fog. "Morg's one rule," Gloria said, eyes never leaving the laptop. "Don't ever call me after midnight again unless the gold is on fire." Morgan cracked a tired laugh. "Promise, Glow, cross my heart." By lunchtime, Gloria had traced a dozen dummy corporations, everyone run through her stepmother's second husband's cousins, none showing up in IRS records. Allison was moving money, lots of it. Night rolled in cold and harsh as Morgan drove back to the mansion. She had to retrieve the remaining books, maybe another clue. She climbed the porch in the dark, flashlight trembling. On the 3rd step, a voice surged out of the gloom, smooth, venomous. "You really came back, Morgan." Allison stood there in tailored wool, boots too new for the mud. Her eyes were the same blank blue, always watching for an angle. Morgan fumbled, flashlight swinging. Didn't know you knew the address. Allison smiled, teeth white in the dark. Chestnut Hill is mine, you're trespassing. Morgan swallowed. I have every right, I'm not moving. A hard pause. You want to dig up the past? Good luck. Nothing left but rot, not even worth the taxes. Morgan steeled herself. It's not the apples I came for. A flicker of surprise, then anger. Whatever game you're playing, Morgan, it's over. I'm locking this place for good. Try me, Morgan whispered, hand tightening on her bag. Try me. Something in Allison's face changed, jaw tight, gaze flickering to the house's dark interior. You look sick. You need help, not lawsuits. Morgan gritted her teeth, anger burning through her aches. You took everything, and you think I'll just disappear again. Steps shifted in the dust. Electricity crackled in the silence. Allison leaned in. People like you never win, Morgan. You were adopted to fill a space, not to inherit a damn thing. Morgan's breath left in a rush, vision narrowing. Ever wonder why he hid things from you, Allison? Allison recoiled, mask slipping. Get out. Morgan didn't. Instead, she stared her stepmother down until Allison turned, all armor and performance. Morgan watched her car roll away, taillights vanishing into the fog. Inside, Morgan pressed her back against the glass, legs quivering but her spine steel. She had survived worse than this. Back at Gloria's the next morning, the evidence was almost ready. Gloria had mapped $3 million in vanished cash, proved trust manipulation, and traced offshore accounts linked to names from Morgan's own birth records. There were skeletons crawling out from every corner. Morgan's phone buzzed. Morgan B. Subject urgent, patent deadline, file now. She stared at the screen, then turned to Gloria. Do we risk it? File today. Gloria nodded. You have to. If they get there first, every drop of evidence, every ounce of gold worthless. You'll lose standing. Morgan braced herself, hands shaking so badly it took 2 tries to log in. They filed the patent, finalizing every detail. Morgan's brain sang with a wild adrenaline, feverish but victorious. Let's see her spin this, Gloria whispered. I want the truth out, Morgan replied, all of it. By midday, Gloria had assembled a thick packet for a reporter at the Post, her favorite from old days at the Bureau. He's greedy, but he hates a cover-up more than taxes, she muttered, dialing him. Morgan watched the hallway, every creak making her jump. She couldn't prove it, but she felt Allison's shadow everywhere. Gloria set a steaming mug of coffee down. You want revenge or justice, Morgs, just be clear before this lands. Morgan stared at the swirling steam, thinking of sleepless nights, her mother's voice, her grandfather's old lesson. Always finish the row you're given. After a long silence, justice, but I want everyone to know how hard you have to fight for it. Gloria grinned, sharp-toothed. Then we're about to make some noise. The morning of the confrontation dawned cold. The makeshift boardroom was downtown, glass walls draped with cheap roller blinds, view full of cranes and dead apple orchards. Gloria had insisted, public, so Allison wouldn't pull anything overt. Morgan waited, duffel at her feet, gold nugget in her pocket for luck. The door burst open. Allison, flanked by 2 lawyers and a pale young woman Morgan vaguely remembered as a family accountant's daughter. Allison's laugh was brittle. You're still here, you brought the circus. Morgan stared her down, hands flat on the table. Show S just starting, Allison, you want a seat. The lawyers rustled papers. Allison's voice was honeyed ice. You've misunderstood how any of this works. Gloria stepped in, voice calm but flinty. We have every wire transfer from May 2003 onward. Would you like to dispute them publicly? Allison's hand twitched. Those accounts are all legal, you're bluffing. Morgan opened the duffel, pulling out the gold-flecked evidence. She let a few pages flutter down, the trust's missing addendum, her grandfather's photograph, gold nuggets shining like exposed nerves. One of the lawyers leaned in. "My client wishes to." "Your client," Gloria interrupted, "has mishandled trust funds, laundered money, and committed perjury on at least 4 notarized statements. I have documentation certified here," and she gestured to a waiting laptop, "already sent to federal authorities and the Post." "Don't lie to me again." "Not here," Morgan said, voice flat but hard. "I don't know what you're talking about," Allison snapped, face taut. Gloria planted one hand on the table. "We do. It's all here. Every transfer, every name. You have 2 minutes before it goes national." "Stop, put that down," Allison hissed, lunging, nails nicking the edge of the dossier. "You have no idea what you're doing." Morgan stepped back, pressing the duffel against her body. Fog dimmed the windows, but inside was bright, raw with exposure. "The world will know by morning," Gloria declared. "You can't shut us up anymore." Silence fell, tense as fish wire drawn tight. "You think you've won, that you're some kind of hero," Allison spat, voice shaking. Morgan's knuckles whitened on the bag. "No, just done with being erased." All eyes were on Allison, a judge without a robe, a queen without a throne. Her mouth trembled, anger collapsing inward. At the door, the young accountant's daughter lifted her phone, filming. A distant police siren sounded, not close, but enough to snap the tension. One of the lawyers, face gray, gathered his folders and stood. "We're done here. Advice to my client, settle and disappear, fast." Morgan's mind swam as the last white pages fluttered to the linoleum. Allison sagged in her chair, broken, suddenly old. Gloria rested a hand on Morgan's arm. "That was brave," she whispered. Morgan exhaled for the first time all day. It was already online by the time they made it downstairs. A front-page exposé, screenshots, raw forensic evidence, a viral thread spreading through news feeds and talking head panels. Allison's face was everywhere, with words like embezzlement and fraud shining beside her name. Jason Knowles, the reporter, called Morgan 20 minutes after the story broke. "You ready for the next wave? People are going to want you on every morning show for the next month." Morgan pinched the bridge of her nose, exhaustion crashing over her. "I don't want fame, I want it to mean something." "You'll get noise, but you have the receipts. That's rare." Allison's lawyers issued a statement. "Temporary withdrawal, client will be seeking treatment, settlement negotiations pending." By the end of the week, she was radioactive to anyone with a license or an office. Online, survivors of similar financial schemes found Morgan's story, some saying in clipped, grateful emails, "You made us feel seen." The estate, every crushing, broken acre passed into Morgan's name. The gold mines, the patent, the battered house no one else wanted. She signed over a third to charity, set up a foundation for single mothers at the edge of homelessness. Her own medical coverage, finally, arrived in a plain white envelope. Gloria, sipping black coffee in the ruined kitchen, grinned. "You ever going to hire staff?" Morgan mopped the deck, arms strong again. "Someday, right now I just want clean windows." A stranger knocked one afternoon, young, determined, pushing a stroller. "It's true, isn't it? You're helping people here now." Morgan nodded. "That's what the sign says." A breeze shook the porch railings as another day began, new, honest hers. For years, Morgan had believed exclusion was her inheritance, dust, not gold. But what one person threw away, another could discover and remake. The world will tell you who you're not and carve you out. But you can decide with scarred hands and open eyes that loss is not the last word. For every lock, there waits someone patient enough to find the key. If you've survived being erased, maybe, just maybe, it's your turn to write something new. Morgan found herself, days after the reckoning, standing barefoot in the cool dust of the Chestnut Hill parlor. The house felt different now, no longer a mausoleum of her stepmother's ambition, but something lighter, as though years of silent anger had finally dissipated through the cracked windows. She moved from room to room, letting her fingertips trail across scarred wainscoting and faded banisters, smelling the faint return of wood and memory beneath layers of mildew. A shrill ring cut the quiet, a vintage wall phone unearthed during her first rounds of cleaning. She hesitated before answering, dread flickering through her like an old radio signal. It was Gloria, her voice brisk as ever. "Press wants another interview. Channel 5 tonight, they'll send a car if you say yes." Morgan started, already exhausted. "Maybe I've said enough." "Yeah, except this only sticks if you stay visible," Gloria pressed, softer. "She's not gone, just limping. And you're the story now, whether you like it or not. You're also the shield." Morgan glanced at the gold nugget, her talisman, warm from her palm. "Okay, I'll do it, but only if you're next to me." "Always," Gloria replied. "I'll bring donuts. Wear something that doesn't say accidental hermit, all right." Morgan found a clean blouse in a box labeled donate, ironed it on the stove with a damp towel, and tried to tame her hair into something approximating intention. She left the duffel locked in her new office upstairs, forced herself to breathe. "You're the shield," she repeated, not just her own now. By 6 o'clock, under the harsh glow of TV lights, Morgan fielded questions. What comes next for the gold? Did she ever suspect? What would her grandfather think? For each, she gave the truth in portions, enough to keep the narrative just ahead of rumor. Midway, the anchor leaned forward, voice dropping. "Some say you brought down a dynasty. How does it feel?" Morgan hesitated, remembering nights curled by cold windows, counting pills. Remembering the drawn face of her mother, the letter without a signature. "It doesn't feel like power," she said quietly. "It feels like breathing after years underwater, like someone finally unlocked the window, even if I had to break the glass myself." The anchor nodded, lips pressed, and Morgan saw fleetingly a flicker of understanding, a kinship born not of wealth but of survival. After Gloria chucked her in the arm, "Not bad, hero." Morgan made a face. "Don't start. Hero's the word they use until they find out you're broke again." They drove home in companionable silence. The air tasted clean, scented with the bruised grass and apple blossom of early spring. Cleaning out the old study days later, Morgan found a faded envelope taped in a drawer, her grandfather's handwriting looping across the front. She opened it slowly, each word like water on scorched earth. "Morgan, if you found the gold, it's because you asked the right questions. Use it for more than yourself, heal the bruised fruit, settle the debts I couldn't. And remember, trust what you can build with your own hands. All the rest is dust." She pressed the note to her lips, breath trembling. The next morning, she called a contractor, a woman she'd met at the local coffee shop, boots spattered with plaster, eyes bright. "Can you restore the porch? Maybe turn the south rooms into an office suite." They worked together for hours, Morgan awkward but learning, paint in her hair, muscles aching in all the old places. Every bolt unscrewed felt like a reclamation, a stubborn defense against erasure. One afternoon, Gloria arrived with a sheaf of mail, letters from strangers. There were mothers in Phoenix, a nurse from Portland, a teenage boy in New Jersey who'd watched her interview and begged for advice on beating systems designed to keep him out. Gloria dropped the letters on the kitchen table. "You got your miracle, Morgs, now what?" Morgan sipped coffee, feeling the silence settle between them like a pact. Now we help someone else get theirs. Spring roared in, clearing fog from the yard, coaxing green from even the sickest apple boughs. Morgan hired a local crew, most of them just scraping by. Single parents, aging locals, a few teenagers she remembered from the shelter 2 towns over. She turned the decaying garden into rehab plots, let the foundation fund startup classes in the carriage house, and put up new signs, open to all. At first, the neighbors were wary. Old money had a long memory, and most still sent polite, chilly notes suggesting the grounds revert to historical sanctuary. Morgan smiled each time she received one, tucked it in a folder labeled "Not for us." But the new tenants, artists, mechanics, tech dropouts, survivors didn't care about old ghosts. On weekends, the place bustled. Battered pickup trucks backing up to unload crates of bread, kids shrieking along half-mended fences, the sound of 100 different lives scrabbling out from under past ruin. One dusk, Gloria joined Morgan and a circle of volunteers around a battered table. Someone had built a bonfire from storm-felled applewood, the smoke curling sweetly. "You know what I like about this," Gloria said, cradling a mug. "You can almost pretend the world is simple, just work and kindness without all the legal rot." Morgan stretched, sore but content. "You ever regret it, helping me blow things up?" Gloria barked a laugh. "Best burnout therapy I ever had. No morgues. If anything, you proved something most people never get close to: redemption costs more than revenge, but it pays better too." A slow, humming agreement rippled around the fire, small and true. "Allison ever reach out again?" someone asked, voice soft. Morgan shook her head, realizing she didn't feel fear, only a mild, cautious pity. "Last I heard, she's in Ibiza or rehab or both. Selling stories maybe, doesn't call me." A silence gathered, but it no longer hurt. Morgan felt it settle, finally, not as a mark of loss, but as space, a threshold she could cross in her own time. One May morning, a familiar rental car crawled up the drive, her old Subaru, now in the hands of the student she'd sold it to cheaply, a single mother with 2 kids. The exhaust puffed blue, the radio was playing 70s soul. They unloaded supplies for the foundation. Stacks of legal pads, granola bars, a long back-ordered wheelchair ramp. The eldest boy handed Morgan a crumpled invitation, an art show funded by her emergency micro-loan. "You coming?" he asked shyly. Morgan grinned, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Inside, art crowded the walls. Collages cut from eviction notices, hopeful brushstrokes, one portrait of Morgan done in fierce, joyful gouache. Not a hero, just a woman with scarred hands holding out a key. Afterwards, amid hugs and laughter, the mother hugged Morgan tight. "You know, I named our new tomato plot for you." Morgan flushed. "I never could keep a plant alive for long." "That's the trick," the mother replied. "It's not about the plant, it's the ground you claimed back." Some weeks later, a call came from the state attorney's office. The investigation, they told her, had closed in her favor. Allison had fled the country, a hush agreement made and funds locked to ensure restitution. "You did the right thing," the caseworker said, dry as sand. "It won't undo everything, but you changed the odds, maybe for more than just yourself." Morgan listened, cell phone pressed to her cheek as the details filtered through. Trust repairs, court-mandated disbursements. The estate, free from liens and their rot, now clear to be used as Morgan willed. She hung up and set the phone down, glancing through the open window as the summer's first storm gathered. The sky was bruised purple, heavy and alive. Downstairs, she found Gloria prowling the new library, muttering about inventory. "Think we've created a monster, Morgs. You see the waiting list for next season's scholarships." Morgan grinned, the surge of pride so unfamiliar it nearly hurt. "Let it grow, there's room, everyone gets a row to finish." They sat in the bay window, listening to thunder, trading small stories about losses and miracles. After a time, Gloria nudged her. "You ever think about leaving, selling up, moving somewhere with less history?" Morgan tipped her head back, letting the rainlight blink her eyes. "I used to, but running doesn't unmake what happened. I'd rather dig here, see what comes up next." Gloria nodded, content. "You ever need me, you know where to find me." Summer deepened. The orchard put forth sour, stubborn apples. Morgan's Foundation launched its first nationwide initiative, pairing family financial counseling with mental health clinics. The phones rang off the hook. But between all the bustle, Morgan held tight to quiet moments, cleaning an old painting, tea on the porch steps, the companionship of survivors and strays. She called her mother's old friends, pieced together stories, learned the shape of wounds and the slow arcs of forgiveness. Some nights she'd walk the grounds after everyone left, gold nugget in her pocket. She'd stare up at the battered house, grandeur faded but stubborn, and feel, at last, some version of belonging. Late August, Gloria brought cupcakes to mark the one-year Independence Day. They sat in the parlor with a handful of locals and the notarized deed, laughing over each small disaster survived. The plumbing collapse, the winter freeze, the silent donors who always returned with more needs to fill. After dessert, Morgan found herself alone as the sun bled west, lighting the windows gold. She walked to the study, unlocked the bottom drawer, and placed her grandfather's letter inside with the gold nugget, now worn from worry. At the threshold of the room, she paused, remembering the words he'd left, about asking the right questions, about what to build with her own hands. "You were right," she whispered. Closing the door behind her, crossing the battered floorboards, Morgan understood at last. The inheritance wasn't just gold, nor land, nor even justice. It was the lesson that sometimes survival was itself a victory, and every victory could be made to matter, not only for herself, but for all those still searching for a door that opened, a lock that could be picked. Tomorrow she would answer more letters, balance budgets, welcome another outcast, and keep the windows clean. In the hush before sleep, Morgan let herself dream. Not of escape or of revenge, but of orchards made new, of houses filled with laughter, of a world shaped, line by stubborn line, by hands that refused to let go. Just before midnight, rain tapping soft as memory at the glass, Morgan wrote a note and pinned it to the kitchen corkboard. "For anyone who needs it. The locks aren't changed, turn the key, find the gold, pass it on. MB." And for the first time she rested,